But with that being said, I want to dive into this because I'm really excited about this tonight because, quite frankly, I've been able to be in a position, or especially over the last few years, that not a whole lot of people are blessed to have. And I've taken away so many things that I thought when I got into entrepreneurship, when I got into business, when I got into this industry, personal branding, everything else, there were so many things, so many assumptions, so many ideas that I had that once I got to peek behind the curtain, I realized it really wasn't what I thought that it was. And the things that looked like they worked from an outside perspective, they really don't work the way that you think that they do. And then when you get behind the scenes, you realize that the things that really move the needle, the high leverage decisions, the high leverage models, the high leverage ideas that really move the needle, a lot of times they're not talked about in a front facing way. So tonight's call is purposefully designed to discuss those things, those takeaways that most people will not ever see. That's why I call this the 12 tenets. It's 12 principles, 12 best practices that I've picked up over the years that I want to share freely with you tonight. Now, of course, with any webinar event, anything similar to this, you have some obligatory things that you have to go through, right? Most people, other people, if they were doing a call like this, they would begin with a rags to riches story. They would begin by telling you that they were from this little 900 square foot house in East Limestone County, Alabama, single mother, dealt with anxiety and depression their whole lives, blah, blah, blah. All that's true, by the way. But, most other people would really highlight that, pinpoint it, focus on that because they got to build up the rags to riches story. And then, of course, they'd show you a picture next to some flashy, expensive looking, fast sports car. And then if they really are good at what they're doing in the whole marketing thing, of course, they're going to have a couple private jet pictures in there. And the thing is, usually, and listen, some people go even beyond this. Some people are even better. Like some people, they do the car, they do the jets. Some people are even like, hey, I'm so credible. Here's pictures of me on a stage. This is why you ought to listen to me. This is why I'm qualified. This is why I can lead you to the promised land. I'm going to make you rich in about 2.2 seconds. Why? Because here's some pictures of me on stage. All the credibility, right? The problem is at a certain point, once you get past the marketing, once you get past the psychology, once you get past the hype, you usually end up with something like this. Just being honest. They're speaking Japanese and they're saying stuff to get you interested and to pique you into a buying state, but they're not really giving you any real tactics. There's a bunch of hype, but there's no actual tenets. There's nothing that you can put into practice, put into play. So this is what we're going to avoid tonight. We're not going to do that. Now, I do kind of have the same story arc, but my goal is to not look like this slide at the end of the night. And here's why, because most other people cannot show you receipts. That's been my favorite saying for the past few years. We keep receipts. If you don't have receipts, I'm not interested in looking at anything that you got. All right. So here's a couple of things we've done over the last few years. Doubled the speaking revenue of the number one motivational speaker in the world year over year, doubled top line revenue. We got him a New York Times bestseller. It was a team effort. That was a huge project. I always tell people, especially who are personal brands, speakers, coaches, thought leaders, publishing a book is the last thing you should do, not the first thing you should do, because it takes a massive amount of resources and it's unbelievably difficult to hit a New York Times or Wall Street Journal list like that. It's brutal. I got gray hair specifically because of that project, but we did it. Multiple seven-figure mastermind and a seven-figure software business. We actually created a SaaS or a software as a service to give ET some more consumable products in his lineup. After that, I went on to work with some of these guys that you see on the screen here, Master P, Deion Sanders, Craig Siegel, and of course, good old ET. That's where everything started in the bottom right. And as mentioned, we do keep receipts. Here they are. Bottom right, you see some online events that we've hosted. This was one of our challenges. Got 16,500 people registered for it. You see all the bestsellers, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, USA Today in the top left. Those are different books, by the way. That's not just all in one book, although ETs did hit all of those except the Wall Street Journal, but I digress. You see things doubling quarter over quarter, doubling year over year, and then, of course, the big numbers down the bottom left-hand side of your corner for one of our clients. So again, this is not anything salesy. This is not anything like, oh, look at me, look at me. But I do want you to understand that the 12 tenets that we're going to be talking about tonight, by the way, make sure you stick around to the very last one because I did save the absolute best for last, and it's something that you're not going to expect at all. It's something that nobody else in the entire industry talks about. But I wanted to show you these things because quite frankly, this is not going to be a cute webinar. It's not going to be an event or a call that is designed to be gripping and a lot of storytelling, and it's going to be so entertaining. This is not going to be that. This is not going to be that. There's not going to be any fancy stories. There's not going to be any half ideas where I'm giving you half of the secret sauce and then you got to pay for the other half. We're not going to do that. Okay. All I want to do over the next 45 to 50 minutes is go over the lessons that I've learned after closing 10 million in sales and spearheading projects for some of your favorite brands. If that's fair, put fair in the chat. Drop fair in the chat just so I know that you guys are on board. I don't want to, I don't want to do nothing you guys are not on board for. Reggie, my man, Giovanna, Andrew, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so let's dive into this. Let's dive into this. 12 tenets to eight-figure brands most people never ever get to see. Before we dive into the 12, I do just want to show you this slide. I show this slide to everybody that I work with because I think that people overcomplicate business. I really do. I think that sometimes we get caught up in the new about TikTok Shop and everybody's going, "Oh, I got to go be on TikTok Shop. That's going to make me a bajillionaire." And it might. It might. But I think we need to root ourselves in the foundation of what business really is. It's A, adding value to other people, solving other people's problems. Elon Musk, famous quote, even though I think he stole it from somebody else, that's irrelevant. You get paid in proportion to the magnitude of the problems that you solve. Well, how do you solve problems and how do you get paid for it? What is on the slide right now is all that a business is on one line of text. You have leads, you have conversions, you have your price. That is your revenue. Period. You want to increase revenues? Increase one of those three things. You can either get in front of more people, you can convert more of the people that you get in front of, or you can convert them at a higher price. And you can play with price and call it lifetime value, lifetime gross. You can do a lot of different things with that. But at the end of the day, it's how much is that customer worth, right? So lifetime value would be a little bit more of a nuanced, accurate term. But for now, we're just going to say price. We'll dive into LTV a little bit later in the call. So you can get in front of more people, you can close more of them more efficiently, or you can make them worth more. Only three things that you can do to increase your top line revenue. So stop worrying so much about, oh, this tactic, this tactic, this tactic. Distill it down. What are we doing? What needle are we moving? What lever are we pulling? Are we getting in front of more people? Are we converting them more effectively? Or are we making them worth more? Only three things that you can do to increase the revenue in a business, minus your expenses, of course, fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are things like, for me, I have an app. It costs me $350 a month to keep it up and running no matter what I do. If there's two people or 2,000 people, it's $350 a month. That's a fixed cost. Variable cost would be for every client that I bring on, say, if I'm in the physical products business. I know Andrew here, he's in the physical products business. If he sells somebody something for 20 grand, there might be, and I'm making up numbers here, so don't hold me to this, there might be $4,000 or $5,000 of hard costs that are associated with fulfilling that order, right? So that'd be a variable cost because it moves based on how much somebody orders. Okay. So again, simple stuff. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. The KISS principle. Leads, conversions, and price equals your revenue. Fixed cost plus variable cost equals your expenses, excuse me, expenses. You subtract your expenses from your revenue. That's your profits. That's all a business is. Do not overcomplicate it. The 12 things we're going to talk about tonight are going to help move directly one of these five variables that you see on the screen right now. So let's dive in. Tenet number one. Tenet number one. The cardinal sin of business is one sale to one person, one time. It's the cardinal sin. Make it a goal for you to never, ever, ever, ever sell one thing to one person one time. That is what we call a side hustle. That is a decently paying job that you're probably overworked at. That's what that is. That is constantly scraping and clawing for new people to sell stuff to, constantly being caught in that rat race, in that hamster wheel of, oh, I got to get in front of more people. I got to sell more people. I got to find more people. That's rough. That's rough. LTV, meaning lifetime value, what a customer is worth to you throughout the duration of the relationship that they have with your business, requires both MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and Ascension. Do not settle for one or the other. Monthly recurring revenue means every single month these people are paying you. So again, for my app, it's $47 a month. Every single month, people who are signed up send me $47. It automatically comes out of their account and it just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls until they cancel. Same thing for something like Netflix. The $14.99 or whatever it is these days, it automatically comes out of the account. No matter if you watch a movie or not, $14.99 is coming out of that account. Monthly recurring revenue. However, if that's all that you have, like imagine you have 1,000 people paying you $47 a month. Let's just say you take the model that I choose to use, that community-based coaching model, $47 a month. Great. If you got 1,000 people paying you $47 a month, praise God, you're making $47,000 every month, right? That's 600 grand a year. That's great. It's phenomenal. It puts you in top 1% in the United States, the richest country in the world. So that's pretty great. But if you've got 1,000 people paying you 47 a month, I would be willing to bet that 20% of them, i.e., 200, would be willing to pay 297 a month. So now we got 800 paying 47. We got 200 paying, I don't know, 297. I would also be willing to bet that maybe 3 or 4% would be willing to pay you $1,000 a month. So then you end up with something where you've got like, I don't know, 870 people paying 47. You got 200 people paying 297. Then you got 30 people paying $1,000 a month. Now all of a sudden you went from a $600,000 a year business to a $1.2 million a year business because you added in an ascension model in addition to your MRR, right? And then what you can also do is take those people who are paying you every single month and say, hey, I put together this big thing. Maybe it's a mastermind. Maybe it's a done for you service. Sell that for 10, 15, 20. Now that's your high ticket product that you can pitch and sell. And now you get those big influxes of cash because out of that 1,000 people that are loyal fans and like what you're doing already, who are already transacting with you, who already trust you, who already like you, a certain percentage of them is going to be willing to pay more for a more exclusive, higher end service or product from you, right? So I always tell people you don't want to be stuck in one or the other. If all you have is MRR, it's very stable, it's nice, but you're leaving so much revenue on the table. If all you have is an ascension model, you start people off at a one-time $97 purchase, then they go up to a $997, then they do the 5,000, then they do the 20. That's also cool, but I'm telling you, you're missing out on the stability of the recurring revenue, right? This is why a lot of the biggest companies in the world, for example, like a HubSpot sells software. They're going to hit you for 20, 30, 40, 50. I mean, depending on the size of your company, it could be well into the six figures. They're going to hit you for thousands of dollars on the front end as your onboarding, data migration, and setup fee. Then, after the big chunk of change, now they're going to charge you whatever per month. It's too much and it's stupid, but that they've made billions of dollars off of it. So, hey, if people are paying it, they're going to keep on selling it. So you have to have both. I think the best illustration of this comes from a guy named Russell Brunson. He's really big in the industry that I'm personally in, the personal branding and speaking industry, events, coaching, so on and so forth. He was the founder of a software called ClickFunnels, and he has this model that he calls the linchpin. So again, this is not mine. This is Russell Brunson's. But this is the best way that I've seen it graphically, what I just said, graphically displayed. Okay. Now on the bottom left, you'll see MIFGE in that little box. It's called the MIFGE, most incredible free gift ever. He just abbreviates it to MIFGE. What that is a way to sneakily get people into the MRR side of your business. So what he does with ClickFunnels is say, hey, for $0 or for $1, or $7, some like ridiculously low ticket offer that you'd be stupid to say no to. He says for $7 or for $1, I'm going to give you a 30-day free trial to my software. I'm going to give you $20,000 worth of marketing courses so that you can make the most out of it. I'm going to give you free admission to this event. I'm going to give you this, going to give you that, give you this. And the whole point is to make it such a no-brainer, ridiculous offer, either for free or very, very close to free. And the catch is after 30 days, now you're on the MRR. After 30 days, it's going to automatically re-up you into his level 1 of continuity, which is for him is $97 a month. It's the lowest level of the continuity offer, right? Most of the time, people are going to be running ads to that type of offer. If you're ever running ads, this is what you want to run them to. Because the thing with ads is a lot of people try, and I didn't even plan on talking about this tonight, but a lot of people try and self-liquidate on the front end of an ads funnel. You could do that in 2010. It's tough to do that now. To do that now, you have to already have a massive organic presence. That's the only way that it works. Okay. There is no secret hack where you can just direct link an ad to a $2,000 course and turn a positive ROI on that anymore. We're too advanced in the evolution of meta ads and Google ads and all these different platforms. Maybe somebody will figure something out on TikTok. I don't know, or some new platform that comes out. But for now, you're not going to be able to direct link and turn a positive ROI. Your positive ROI is going to come from LTV, lifetime value. So with something like this, what's going to happen is you're not going to self-liquidate on the front end, but you're going to spend, let's say you spend 10 grand in ads, sending people to your most incredible free gift ever. And then maybe you retain 20% of those people. And if 20% of them stay for 6 months, now you break even. But then after that, the lifetime value further downstream, now you're up, right? This is how the biggest companies in the world are doing it. They're going down on the ad spend so that they can go up in lifetime value afterwards. So again, that is the benefit of having that MIFKI is to be able to bring people into your ecosystem. That's the benefit of it. From there, on the top of that thing, you also have your what he calls dramatic demonstrations. That's your online webinars, your online challenges, things of that nature. And from there, he's selling you, that's where he sells those $2,000 courses, $5,000 courses, that one time offer. But what he does so well is he doesn't just say, okay, free challenge, let me sell you this course, because that would be an ascension model, right? Free 2,000, 10,000, 20. That's ascension. He says, let me sell you this $2,000 course, pitch it from stage, but also that $2,000 course contains a 30-day free trial to my MRR product. And after 30 days, you're going to re up on that too. So it's really 2,000 plus 97 a month. That's what makes his business model so incredibly good. And quite frankly, it's why he's a billionaire, right? Even you see on the upper right hand side, high ticket offer, all of that still drops back down into MRR as well. So he'll sell a $30,000 mastermind coaching program, and he'll say, "Hey, if you want to be a part of this, you have to be subscribed to my higher level continuity, $297 a month instead of 97 a month. You get more features, upgrades, whatever." Okay. So again, I don't want to overcomplicate it too much, but the main point that I want you to get out of tenant number one is selling one thing to one person one time as the cardinal sin of business. You should never, ever, ever, ever do it. That should be red flags and alarm bells going off in your mind at all times if that is a situation that you find yourself in. You need to constantly be thinking, how do I turn this into some form of recurring revenue? How do I turn this into both recurring revenue and ascension simultaneously? Okay. That's number one. Number two. And forgive me, we're going to cover a lot of content really quickly today because I do want to honor your time. I know it's an evening, and so I want to try and SOPs and reliable acquisition systems. What I have found from working with a lot of the biggest personal brands, speakers, coaches, thought leaders, media personalities, a lot of these individuals have really built a job that they can't get themselves out of. And it pays great that maybe they're making six figures or multiple six figures or seven or even eight figures. That's possible, but they can't really retire. They can't hand it off to somebody. They can't pass it down to their son later on in their life. They can't do much with it, right? So what I want you to do to avoid that is remove, again, what's called key man risk. This is a big word that is frequently used in private equity. So if somebody's going to come buy your business, they want to come transact with you and say, I just want to buy your whole company outright. This is something that they're going to be looking at. Right. And that means if I remove you, the founder, the CEO, the face of the brand, whoever that might be within the organization, if I remove the head honcho, does this thing die with you? Or can it keep growing? Do you have a leadership team in place? Do you have SOPs where you can grab somebody, a standard operating procedure, where you can grab somebody off the street, and if they read through your SOP, watch the training videos, go through the onboarding process, can they work there and effectively execute each task that creates the machine that is your business? See, most people create jobs, not machines. Machines are what have enterprise value. And a lot of people, especially in the coaching, consulting, speaking industry, they don't build real businesses that have enterprise value, right? Like, think of it this way. John Maxwell, huge name in that industry. John Maxwell could sell his company today for a couple $100 million probably because quite frankly, as much as we all love John, if he somehow disappears, if his very, very nice private jet just happens to crash, that company still goes on. Why? There's a leadership team in place. There's already 80 something books that are written. So the content's already there. And they have other people who are also writing underneath him, using his style, that learned from him, that studied under him, but that are now writing their own content. You see Dave Ramsey doing this right now. He's a local Nashville guy. He does it. It's not Dave Ramsey anymore. It's the Ramsey personalities because he's removing himself as the key man risk so that the company is worth something in terms of enterprise value. So ask yourself that question. If you disappeared, does your business also disappear? And if the answer to that is yes, how can we put processes in place to make sure that that is not the case? Another thing is brand, right? Brand has a big thing to do with this as well. Phil Knight is the founder of Nike. If Phil Knight disappears, God bless him, but it doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't matter. Most people, as a matter of fact, I would argue, don't even associate the company that he built, which is now worth billions of dollars. They don't associate that company with him. If anything, they associate it with Jordan. They did such a good job of branding their company that people think of another human being that does not work for them, but also brings them attention and brings them more revenue. That means if Phil just decides to dip out completely, it doesn't matter. The company will still go on. They have reliable acquisition systems. They're going to keep getting new customers. They're going to keep signing new athletes. They're going to keep having a media presence. And it's going to have nothing to do with the CEO of the company and the guy who's getting most of the money from it. Right? So, tenet number two is build a brand and a business. Don't build yourself a job. Remove that key man risk. All right, number three. Number three, I told you we're going to go quick. Your product should be an MCI concept. I promise you, your favorite business guru is not going to talk about this. You're never going to see this anywhere on the internet. You're not going to see this on an Instagram reel. An MCI concept, this comes from psychology. MCI stands for minimally counterintuitive concept. Okay. We learn about this actually in classes that deal with the psychology of religion and philosophy. So if you take a religious example, right? Let's just say the staff turning into a snake. Anybody reads the Bible, you see in Exodus, Moses got the staff, throws it down. He said, God, give me a sign, throws the staff down, boom, turned right into a snake. That is considered a minimally counterintuitive concept. Why? We know what a staff is. We know what a snake is. They're both long, slender objects. Okay, I get one as an inanimate object, one is alive and slithers around on the ground, but like I can kind of conceptualize that. Like I get it. The staff turned into a snake. It's counterintuitive, but it's minimally counterintuitive. If it had said he threw the staff down and the world exploded and he went through a black hole and then he appeared on a star and then he danced in a circle 3 times and then it turned into, it's like what's happening? Like this just doesn't even make sense. That's too counterintuitive. But staff to snake, okay, I kind of get that. It's counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense. I've never seen anything like that. It's definitely a miracle, but it's minimally counterintuitive. It makes sense enough, right? Ghosts are another example of an MCI concept that they use a lot in these psychology courses when they teach people about this. They say, okay, a ghost is basically a human being, but they're dead. You can't see them and they're just kind of there, but they're not there. It's like, okay, I kind of get it. Like, kind of makes sense. Like, fair enough, right? It's not this crazy thing that I can't even possibly conceptualize in my brain. That's what an MCI concept is. Your product or service needs to be your version of an MCI concept. It can't be so counterintuitive that nobody knows what the heck you even do. That's not helpful. Like everybody says, oh, you got to stand out in business. You got to stand out. You got to be inventive. You got to be creative. Yeah, but within reason. Right? Look at Apple. Every single year, the new iPhone comes out. What do they really change? Camera's a little better. Maybe it's a little thinner, but it's still an iPhone. People understand it, right? So your product cannot be so different, so distinguished, so outlandish that nobody knows what the heck it is and what it does, right? It needs to be understandable quickly and easily. However, it simultaneously cannot be quote unquote another one of those. So it's got to be counterintuitive, but it has to be minimally counterintuitive. Another good way of thinking about this, my good buddy Rory Vaden always says, you got to put yourself in a box so that you can take yourself out of it. Exact same idea. He just had a much more eloquent way of getting to it. And I don't know if he knows all the psychology behind it, but that's what he means by that is put yourself in a box that people understand. Okay, you're a plumber, you're a motivational speaker, you are a insurance agent, you do this thing. People understand that. Great. That's the box you put yourself in. Now take yourself out of it by being unique and different in the way that you do what you do, in the way that you stand out. That's an MCI concept, minimally counterintuitive. I believe I got a picture of that actually. We've all heard don't try and fit a square peg into a round hole. Not 100% true. You want to round out the square peg and then fit it in the round hole, right? This is a visualization of an MCI concept. It starts out being what in the world is that? And then you kind of assimilate the information in a way that, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then you integrate it that way into the psyche. So that's the type of product that we're going after is an MCI concept. All right. Number four, we're a third of the way there. Number four, your product must, your MCI concept product or service, your minimally counterintuitive product or service must leverage what I call the three S's. If you do not tap into the three S's, it is going to be very difficult to market your product because there will not be a built-in need or a built-in desire for your product. You don't want to try and sell people on something that you want them to buy. You want to sell people on something that they want to buy. You want to go to where the demand already is. If you leverage the three S's, I guarantee you there is built-in demand because it's not based off of your marketing and your genius, although I'm sure you're great. It's based off of human psychology and built-in intrinsic desires that every single human being has. So the three S's. Number one, status. Status can be things like education, right? I mean, you can even think about classical education. You get a PhD, you gain status. So it's not that hard to sell it for 200 grand worth of student loan debt because, oh, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be Dr. Brock, Dr. Adams, Dr. Chambers, right? It's very enticing. That's status. Even online learning, by the way, courses, if they say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to get in shape. I'm selling an education product, but the result, you becoming more in shape, that's increasing your status. If it's a business coaching product, I'm teaching you something, selling education about how to make more money. More money equals increased status, right? Luxury items, the Gucci belts, the Louis bags, the fancy hotel rooms, those all increase status. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be status in terms of how other people see you, though it is better if it is. Something that has that self-reinforcing pressure from the social pressure of saying, oh, you got those new Nikes? Oh, shoot. I got to go get the. That gives you status from other people. That's a little bit higher leverage, but something even like a fancy hotel room that makes you feel better about yourself. You're the only one that's going to see it, but it makes you feel more high status in your own eyes. That also works. That's another way of selling luxury goods, right? Number two, survival. It's the second S, survival. These are things like utilities, your electricity, housing, right? Housing, whether that be primary residence, hotel, etc., vacation home, those are going to be survival related. Food is survival related, right? And some of the biggest companies in the world are based around this, right? You go look at a Blackstone or a BlackRock, half their freaking portfolio is going to be real estate because people got to have a roof over their heads. They got to have a place to live. It's a massive industry. Some of the biggest, General Electric, one of the biggest companies in the world. Why? Because everybody needs power. Everybody needs water, right? And then the last one, satisfaction, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It sells. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, it sells. By the way, the best products and services, the ones that turn into billion-dollar companies, they combine all three. If you think about social media, is it selling satisfaction? Absolutely, in multiple ways, right? Number one, it's absolutely selling sex. If you've ever been on, I mean, if you've ever opened up your Instagram Explore page, that's 100% what's on there. Number two, it's 100% selling drugs. Instagram's the biggest drug dealer in the world. It's got the cartel beat because it is specifically designed to trigger dopamine releases in your mind that keep you coming back. That's a drug, right? Think of coffee. Folgers is $1 billion company. It's trash coffee. It's horrendous coffee, but it's a drug. It's caffeine. It's a drug, right? Let's stick to social media for a second, though. So they're selling satisfaction in the sense of drugs, et cetera, just the dopamine hit of being there. It's absolutely selling survival because it taps into the innate drive for human beings to be communal animals. We evolved in a state of the world where if you were not linked up with other people, if you didn't have your tribe, good luck. If you were an outcast, if you were rejected by the rest of the tribe or the society, good luck. You're not going to make it because you're not pooling resources with these other people. You're not going to eat. So in a very deep and innate way, social media is absolutely selling survival. And then of course status, yeah, the more followers you have, the more status you have. Right? Everybody wants to show off their car, everybody wants to show off, they were backstage at this event or that event. So it's selling status too. So when you look at the biggest companies in the world, they're selling all three of these simultaneously, right? So start thinking about your products through the lens of the three S's and how you are able to implement them and incorporate them into your product. Now, very, very similarly, tenet number 5, your marketing has to leverage what I call the 5 drivers. Okay. The 5 drivers. Every single piece of marketing you put out, I don't care if it's an email, I don't care if it's a social media post, I don't care if it's an ad, you need to be leveraging each and every one of these as often as you can. These are the things that make people trust you, and these are the things that make people want to buy. Number 1, scarcity and urgency. We've all seen that one. While supplies last, order now while supplies are still in stock, right? And if you order within the next 30 minutes, we'll throw in blah, 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 blah. It's the late night infomercial stuff. We've all seen it, we've all heard it, and it still works to this day. All right. Especially for high ticket stuff. You got a mastermind that you're selling, you got a high ticket coaching program that you're selling. You probably can't service 10,000 clients anyway. So tell them that. It doesn't have to be unethical. You don't have to say, okay, we're only accepting 2 people and then you're really taking in 20. But tell them 20. They don't know if you've got 1,000 people breaking down the door to get in or not. Advertise the fact that you only got 20 spots because that's all that you can handle, if that's the truth, right? So you need scarcity and urgency. Number 2 is social proof with network effects. This is critical. With network effect. Network effects is an economic term. And it means that the thing itself becomes more valuable the more people are a part of it. Social media is a great example of that. Instagram would suck if it's just me and Travis on there. Actually, it'd probably be lit. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be great. It'd be a great place to hang out. But in terms of being a product that people are going to sell and they want to run ads on, and it's going to be $1 billion company, I don't know. I think me and Travis would have a great group chat. But that's not really going to build a business. Instagram is only valuable because there's billions of people on it, right? So what you're after is social proof with network effects. I'll tell you who does this really, really well. Network marketing companies. And to an extent, even people like Next Level Speakers, right? And I see a couple of names that I recognize from the Next Level Speakers program. What they do so well is they'll pull somebody up on stage during an event and they'll say, you know what? This person won an award for making 6 figures speaking this year. That's it's social proof because they're saying, look at how well our stuff works. This person made 6 figures. But it's also network effects because the program itself is more valuable now because the guy that made 6 figures is in the same program that you're in. And now you want to learn from him and the other teachers of the program. So the fact that these other successful people are in there is a part of the appeal. It's social proof, it's a testimonial, plus its network effects. It becomes more valuable because the person who gave the testimonial is still within the network. This is how masterminds are sold. Number 3, relatable authority. Authority is important, but if you have authority and you're not relatable, people call you a jerk and they don't want to do business with you, right? Relatable authority is critical. Number 4, I call it believable secrets. Russell Brunson popularized this. Traffic secrets, funnel hacking secrets. He really popularized the term of secrets. But even if you don't use that word, you need to have something that people think nobody else knows. But it's got to be believable. It can't be, I've got the secret to the universe and to life itself. That doesn't really work. Going back to the MCI concept, it's too counterintuitive. We want things that are minimally counterintuitive. They're counterintuitive enough to pique interest, to be a little bit mysterious, for us to want to find out what it is, but not counterintuitive enough for us to not believe it. So if you say, hey, so even for something like me, right? 12 tenants, eight secrets to eight-figure brand, or 12 secrets to eight-figure brands that almost nobody ever gets to see. If you know my background, you know my story, you know I've been Eric Thomas's agent for a few years, you know I've worked with people like Deion Sanders, Master P, etc. You say, you know what? I kind of believe that. He probably knows some stuff that a lot of people don't know. So it is a secret, but it's believable that I know it and I can give it to you. That's what your marketing needs. Number five, I call it likable reciprocity. Reciprocity works just from a psychological standpoint. Reciprocity works. But if people don't like you, I'll give you a great example. Went to look at a car. Me and my girl went to look at a car about a week ago. And we get there, the deal's totally different than what they had online. We leave, they call us back, say, hey, come back to the dealership. We're going to give you X amount of dollars off, right? Now, the rule of reciprocity says because they're giving us a discount, we would be more likely and more inclined to trust them, to like them, to want to do business with them because they did us a favor. Now we want to do them a favor and we want to act like we're grateful for the gift. That's the psychological principle behind reciprocity. The problem was they lied to us. And so, even though technically, yes, they did make a concession, they did indeed give us a discount. They lied to us about exactly what it was going to be. And therefore, I no longer liked them. And so the reciprocity didn't do anything because I didn't like them. So you need likable reciprocity. If you're doing the whole reciprocity thing and people can see through it, or you do it in an unethical way, or they don't like you, or they don't trust you, they don't like the way that you're going about it, it's not going to work. Okay. So likable reciprocity, believable secrets, relatable authority, social proof with network effects, and scarcity and urgency. That is the fifth tenet. Those are the five drivers. Each piece of marketing, again, this is not something that you only do every once in a while. This is something that you do for every single piece of marketing material that goes out. Number six, we're almost halfway. Number six, do not mistake attention for business. Do not mistake getting attention for marketing. Those are two different things. And I know this one personally, by the way, because in 2018, I had a video blow up online. It went super viral. It got over 50 million views across all channels. It got 8 million on a meme page called 9gag. It was on the front page of iHeartRadio. They did an article on it. It was on Reddit. It was everywhere. The Game, the rapper, he DM'd me about it because I had used his music. Steve-O DM'd me about it. He still follows me to this day. He's like, oh, dude, that's crazy. Like, so many people reached out. So many people saw it. And I believe I made about 2,300 bucks off of that. 50 million views. A lot of people are like, man, if I could get 1 million views, if I could get to 100,000 followers on YouTube, 100,000 subscribers, all my dreams would come true. I'd be a millionaire. Is that really what it's about, though? Is it the audience that makes the difference? Or is it the product market fit? Because I got 50 million views and made no money, made 2,300 bucks by licensing the content because I didn't have a product that the people who found that interesting actually wanted to buy. So seek product market fit, not just pure reach. Way too many people right now in this era of competitive social media are prioritizing reach over product market fit. I know people that have 7,000 followers that are making multiple six figures a year. Matter of fact, I know somebody who made $600,000 in a day when she only had 14,000 followers on Instagram. Most people think to make that type of money, to have $1 million business in a year, you got to be million followers. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. You need a dope product with the right audience who already wants to buy what you are selling. It's the product market fit, not the reach. That's number six. Number seven. Number seven. I told you, I'm gonna honor your time. We're gonna get this thing done in an hour. Number seven, the four forces to the sale. I call this the four forces to the sale. See, people are motivated by different things when they want to buy something. Some people are motivated by results. Some people, all they want to hear about is how does this help me? What is the end result? Just give it to me straight. What is it? What is it not? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Let's do a deal. That's how some people think. Some people are motivated by social pressure. Some people, right? So I sell a lot of health stuff with every day means every day. So if I go to somebody who's 200 pounds overweight and I say, listen, the results are you're going to die early. If you stay at this weight, you are not going to be around to enjoy the things that you want to enjoy. If they're not results oriented, they might not care living to 60 years old versus living to 90 years old. It might not make a difference. They don't really care about the result. Then we can talk about how that's sad or how we want to change that. We can talk about that all day long. But at the end of the day, that might just not be what they're motivated by. But if they're motivated by social pressure and you say, listen, what pain is this going to cause your mother and father because you die before they do? Now we get somewhere because that's the language that they speak. Some people are motivated by ease, ease of the sale, ease of transaction. They want a lack of friction. That's me. I hit a pothole just the other day. Took it to the shop. They said, hey, not only is your tire blown, but your rim is cracked. The wheel itself is cracked. We got to get you a new wheel. They said, hey, if we order it directly from the dealership, it's going to be $1,600. 1,600 bucks, we get you a new wheel, new tire, we'll mount it on there for you. You'll be good to go. Now, I know, because I know cars, I know that I could do this all myself, not mount it, but I could buy the tire, buy a wheel from another place, from a reseller, and get it mounted and put it on the car for probably 1,400. But for me, saving 200 bucks at the cost of my peace and my sanity and me having to do all that work to figure it all out and organize the logistics, that's I'm not interested. I'll pay you the extra 200, just get it done. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. Just do it. I am motivated by the ease of the transaction. If you tell me, hey, you're gonna have to sign a bunch of paperwork, you're gonna have to do this, you're gonna have to do that, I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. Right. So that's what some people are motivated by. And lastly, some people are motivated by Lambos you pose in front of. Like they just don't care. They want to see data. They just want to see spreadsheets. They just want to see quarter over quarter. This is the results that we got. And that's the only thing that's going to convince them. So I call these the four forces of the sale because if you're going to make a sale to somebody, you got to know which one of the four forces is going to move them the most. Not all forces are equal to a given individual because we're wired differently. And you have to understand, okay, what kind of questions are they asking me during the sales process? Are they asking me about data? Are they asking me about social proof? Are they asking me about what's this going to look like? If I say yes, what's the process? What are the steps we got to take? How difficult is this going to be? Or are they asking about the bottom line? Once you figure that out, you can adjust your communication to more effectively sell them. Now, the eighth tenant's going to throw you off a little bit. I guarantee it. I guarantee it because we just talked about sales. Tenant number 8 is that brand beats sales every day of the week. Every day of the week. I have closed six-figure keynotes on behalf of ET over email. Blew my mind. Somebody emailed, this is probably 2 years ago now. I was first getting into the industry at that high level. Somebody emailed, said, hey, we were interested in bringing ET in for a keynote. How much does it cost? I wrote back $100,000. If that works for you, send me the best name and email for the contract and the invoice. They wrote back 20 minutes later. Here's the name, here's the email. Let's do it. I said, wait a minute. We closed a six-figure deal, $100,000 for a keynote? We're not doing any consulting. We're not doing anything. No products, nothing. 45 minutes on a stage. And you didn't even want to talk to anybody on the phone. That's the power of brand. I didn't even need to use the four forces of this. The four forces to the sale are good for hand-to-hand combat, direct sales, one-on-one, phenomenal. But if you have a strong enough brand, I'll be honest with you, you don't even really need them. What is a brand? A brand is consistent public results. Specifically, a brand is a consistent public association to a particular type of result. And what do I mean by that? That company trusted ET not just because it was ET. They trusted ET because for 20 years, he's been putting out content that they associate with the result of feeling inspired and feeling motivated. That's why it was consistent He's got the track record. It was public. It was easy to find. It was right in their faces. It's all over YouTube, Instagram, everywhere else. And there was an association to a result, which was feeling inspired and feeling motivated. See, all a brand is an association to something else. That's what a brand is, right? The reason everybody's upset about the Diddy situation right now is because it's messing with their brand because now they're associated with something they don't want to be associated with. That's what a brand is. Think about Nike. You think about I love Nike. I love using them as a case study because you can watch their commercial and not know what the hell they sell. You can look at a Nike commercial and be like, "You, what do you do? Do you sell getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going to the track and going on a run? Oh, you sell shoes. Got it. You sell clothing. Got it. Okay, got it. They don't say buy this clothing because it's made of the best fabric. Buy this shoe because it's the best built, best made shoe that you've ever seen in your life. Their commercials are all about victory. Their commercials are about being better. Their commercials are about development. Their commercials are about discipline because they want you to associate them with that feeling of being your best self. They don't care nothing about the shoes and the clothes. They don't care anything about that. They care about what feeling you associate with them. When you're really doing a good job branding, you don't even have to show off your product like that. That's when you know you're doing it right. Again, consistent public association to a result. That's a brand. Number 9, optimize before you systemize. So many times, what I see is people who want to buy a new app, they want to buy a new CRM, they want to enroll in a new software, new service, they want a new consultant, they want a new this, they want a new coach, they want a new this, they want a new that. And sometimes before you try to systemize, before you try and say, okay, I'm going to automate this, make sure that you're not automating a bunch of junk. Make sure that you're not systemizing a bunch of junk. Make sure that you are not making a highly efficient, very, very quick, very, very fine tuned piece of garbage. Optimize before you systemize. You might not even need SOPs yet. You might need to test and figure out what works and then write the SOP after you've got some proof that it works. You might not need a new software system yet to automate everything. You might need to get it working first, turn an ROI first, get it profitable first, then systemize. A lot of people hear things like, oh, you got to systemize your business, and they try and do it too early. Make it work first, then systemize it. We're going to be quick on this one. We're going to get done by the top of the hour here. Number 10, master inflow and outflow. This is tenet number 10. If you do not master inflow and outflow, your business is never going to grow. Okay? We talked earlier. Every single business should have some sort of recurring component. You have an inflow of people that are enrolling in that recurring product or service. You have an outflow of people who are churning and who are leaving that recurring product or service. You need to figure out how to minimize outflow and maximize inflow. Here's a couple of ideas. Inflow is simply the number of leads you're getting times the rate that you close them at. So what is a couple know exactly who you're talking to, or are you trying to be one size fits all? Do you have genuine uniqueness, or is it this manufactured stuff that people see through so easily these days? Do you have good guarantees? Have you decreased the risk of your prospects? Do they feel like, oh, you know what? This isn't a risky investment. I feel like there's money back guarantee, there's a bunch of testimonials, there's this, there's that. Do you have good guarantees? Do you have a nurturing process? Are you trying to sell these people on the very first time that you meet them? Most sales, by the way, take a long time. Like when I pitch from stage and sell $40,000 masterminds, it's not to people who just met us. It's to people who have been nurtured for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So you can sell high ticket easily. I'm telling you, you can. I posted a story on Instagram the other day. Sold $120,000 worth of stuff in 30 minutes to a room of only 30 or 40 people. It's possible, but those people got to know, like, and trust you already. They have to have been nurtured already. So that affects your level of leads. Closing rate. Do you understand what they need? Do you have clarity and conviction? Are you asking more questions than you are talking? I was playing pool downstairs at the apartment the other night, and we got this little like offset room. It's a big office, like a ballroom type of office, just big, big office. And this guy was sitting in there and he was on the phone with somebody, and you could tell he's a sales guy, and he was trying to sell this individual on something. And I was playing pool, and I looked over and I was like, I don't think he's gonna get it. I said, why? I said, he's talking too much. He's not asking any questions. He's just selling, selling, selling. I said, that's not the way that you do it. That guy doesn't even know what the other person needs. They don't even know if it's a good fit. They don't even know how to position it properly because they're not asking questions. So those sorts of things affect your closing rate. Again, inflow, number of leads that you're getting times your closing rate. You got to master that. The second thing you got to master is your outflow, right? How do you keep people once you got them? How do you keep people loyal to you, to your business, to your products, to your services? Very rarely is it because it's the best product or service. I find that very interesting. Very rarely is it because it's the absolute best. Typically, there's some sort of emotion, right? And I'm going to talk about this on the next slide, so I'm going to skip it here, but I call it the first form effect. We're going to go back on that. But also continued need. Do you have a consumable product, right? The reason that I'm building even my personal business the way that I am is because these supplements right here, if I die, the brand name Every Day Means Every Day will live because it's a message, it's a feeling. I'm going to brand it and associate it with a feeling consistently over time. And it's a physical product that you don't need me to sell that. And you need more of it every single month. So continued need is a consumable product. You need to order it every single week. HubSpot, we used that example earlier. If you don't want to get your business shut down and you want to lose all your stuff, you need to keep paying them every single month. So that's continued need. I want to talk about this really quick because it ties into this excellence and emotion portion of outflow. If you can give people an experience of excellence and make them experience positive emotions, they're not going to leave because it's so rare in this day and age. So number 11 is all about that. Prioritize the unscalable. Prioritize the unscalable. I used to do a little bit of work with First Form. I was really one of their affiliates, and I was supposed to be selling their supplements and their apparel and services and everything else. And during my onboarding call, me and the girl who was handling all my onboarding, we were just talking about personal development and the different books that we were reading. And she mentioned this book by Tim Grover, who's a big speaker and coach. He was Michael Jordan's trainer and really really big in the industry. And I said, "Oh, I haven't read that one." So I, just making small talk. How is it? Tell me about it. And she said, okay, well, there's a couple of takeaways I thought were really good, but I really think that you would like it. I mean, I really think just based on who you are and what I know about you, I really think that you specifically would super enjoy this book. Well, okay, cool, cool. 2 days later, I got that exact book in the mail with a handwritten note from her on the front cover. And she paid for it herself, by the way. It's not even company money. That kind of stuff buys loyalty for years. I didn't use any other supplements for like 3, 4 years just because of that. Is that scalable, quote unquote? No, no, it's not. Is that systematic and really easy to operationalize? No, no, it's not. Is it worth it? Yeah. That's the type of excellence and emotion that takes your outflow down to almost nothing. Because then that's the type we talked about likable reciprocity earlier in your marketing. When people like you and they feel like you went the extra mile for you, or that you went the extra mile for them, excuse me, they're not going to leave. You just bought yourself like 5 at bats to screw it all up and them still be retained as a customer. Scale the unscalable, prioritize the unscalable, even though it might not make logical sense. Last one, we're going to be done by the top of the hour. Tenet number 12, direction over perfection. Direction over perfection. I was thinking about this. This originally was not the 12th point, by the way. I had something else that was in this spot. And I was working out because every day means every day. I was working out just before this presentation tonight. And I had a flashback. This doesn't happen very often. I typically have a horrible memory, as a matter of fact, a terrible memory. So I almost never just ruminate on old memories. But for whatever reason, I had a flashback. And the flashback was when I lived in Michigan. I was in this apartment complex, 832 Packard Street, Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I believe at this time, was maybe a junior, maybe a senior, and I was just getting started in my career in the coaching and speaking space. I had figured out that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to be a coach to people, help people move the needle. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about the industry. I was a kid, but I was passionate and I felt like I was called for a very particular purpose. Just about a year or two before that, somebody had come to me and said that they were thinking about committing suicide and they didn't do it because of some things that they had heard me say in a speech. And that was the moment for me where I said, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I distinctly remember one night I was on the ground floor, and in Michigan they got these apartments that are kind of halfway underground. It's like half a basement, so you're kind of in the ditch, but then you've also, you're like halfway above ground too. And that's the unit that I was in. And I looked out the window. I kind of had to get up on my tippy toes because they were so high up because we're halfway underground. I saw an ambulance pull up out front. And this was 100% student housing. I mean, the only people that lived there were people my age at that time. They were 19, 20, 21. And I looked out and I saw this ambulance pull up. And a few minutes later, they carted out this young lady, put her in the ambulance, and just ripped off, took her to the hospital. And it wasn't until afterwards that I found out what happened. It was maybe 30 minutes afterwards. Talked to another neighbor, and I guess they somehow knew what was going on. They said she had OD'd. She had overdosed. I don't know exactly what on, but it was some combination of drugs and alcohol. That's all that I know. I don't know exactly what she was taking, but I know that it was drugs and alcohol. And I just sat there. I went inside, I went to my room, and I locked myself in the room, and I just sat there silent for probably an hour. And I'd never met this girl. Didn't know her name, didn't know anything about her, never spoken to her a day in my life. And I was pissed because I felt like if there was enough inspiration, if there was enough wisdom, if there was enough guidance, if there was enough positive messaging out there in the world, stuff like that doesn't happen. Stuff like that doesn't happen. And I was pissed because I felt like God was saying, this happened on your watch. You're in the same building. How'd you let it happen? Because you were called, according to my purpose, you were called to do something. You felt the call. You felt that this was what you were supposed to do. You felt that this was the industry you were supposed to be in. You felt that you were supposed to be doing this kind of work, but you didn't do it to the level at which she saw it. And now this happened. You live in the same building. This is on your watch. And what I have noticed is that in business, whenever I begin to stray from that focus, from that direction, from that calling, that's when things screw up. That's when things get stressful. That's when I get irritated because I'm thinking too much about social media presence and not enough about the mission. I'm thinking too much about conversion rates and not enough about the mission. I'm thinking too much about headlines and copywriting and not enough about the mission. So I wanted to save this for last because if you take the previous 11 things that we just discussed and you apply them in the wrong direction, what's it going to do for you? You run real fast in the wrong direction, get closer to destruction than you will to life. You can run as fast as you want. You can apply all the right principles toward the wrong thing, and you're still going to get the wrong result. Take what you learn tonight and apply it towards whatever that thing in your heart is that you're supposed to be doing. That's when business works. See, I believe entrepreneurship is a very spiritual thing because it allows you to participate in the divine act of creation. You get to create something. You get to create not only a product or a service, but you get to create a brand. You get to create this thing. Like this every day means every day lives outside of me now. It's not really me. It's not even my thing. I can't take credit for that. That's something that tapped into something in people's spirits. People resonated with that. Your brand should be exactly the same thing. Your business should do exactly the same thing. You get to create something that people enter into a relationship with. And most importantly, you get to create an impact. You get to create a change, a legitimate change in people's souls. If your business doesn't do that, it's a crappy business and it shouldn't exist. That's the point. So, with that being said, I hope this was valuable for you. I think I got a couple other things on here. We're going to skip all this stuff. If you want to dive deeper into any of these things, because again, we didn't have time to go over absolutely everything tonight. The four forces, we have a whole framework for that. The five drivers, a whole framework for that. The three S's, a whole framework for that of how to actually implement it into your business. If you're interested in that, here's a QR code on the screen, or you can go to the URL up there. Completely free. It's not a sales call. It's not a high pressure. I'm going to push you into doing something great. It's not that. It's literally just if you want to dive deeper one-on-one for 30 minutes and figure out how do we apply some of this stuff to your business. I genuinely enjoy doing this. I genuinely enjoy building businesses and talking to people about their brands. So let's chop it up. So that is on the screen if you'd like it. I'm going to cut off the recording and then I'm going to take you guys off mute. You can say any crazy stuff that came to your mind that you couldn't say, on permanent record. And we will go from there. Let's do a little bit of Q&A. I got a couple minutes. Stick around if we want. If not, all good. I promise.